In the annals of history, few figures loom as large as Spartacus. He was a gladiator, a warrior, a rebel king. Spartacus led a slave revolt that shook the very foundations of the Roman Republic. Born into freedom, he knew the bitter taste of slavery. Spartacus's rebellion, while ultimately crushed, left an indelible mark on Roman society. It exposed the vulnerabilities of the mighty Roman war machine. Even centuries after his death, Spartacus's name continued to inspire those who dared to challenge the established order. We know little of Spartacus's early life. Historians believe he was a Thracian, born somewhere in the wild and mountainous region of southeast Europe. The Thracians were a fierce people, renowned for their horsemanship and martial prowess. Some accounts suggest Spartacus might have even served in the Roman army before his enslavement. This experience would have given him valuable insights into Roman military tactics and discipline. Sold to a lanista, a trainer of gladiators, Spartacus found himself in Capua, a city notorious for its gladiatorial games. They fought not for glory, but for survival, their lives hanging in the balance with every contest. Spartacus entered this brutal world, stripped of his freedom, his identity reduced to that of a slave. Yet, his spirit remained unbroken. He witnessed firsthand the cruelty inflicted upon his fellow gladiators, the casual disregard for their lives. Within the confines of the gladiatorial school, Spartacus's natural leadership qualities emerged. He inspired his fellow gladiators, uniting them with a shared dream of freedom. The whispers of rebellion began, faint at first, then growing louder, fueled by Spartacus's unwavering belief in their cause. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake Rome to its core, sparked by a single name whispered in fear: Spartacus. Torn from his homeland, stripped of his freedom, Spartacus found himself thrust into the brutal world of the gladiatorial arena. The ludus, a gladiatorial training school, became his new prison, a place where survival was the only measure of success. Life in the ludus was harsh and unforgiving. Each day began before dawn with grueling physical training designed to push the gladiators to their limits. They learned to wield a variety of weapons, from swords and shields to nets and tridents, their bodies honed into living weapons. But the physical hardship was only part of their ordeal. The gladiators were also subjected to a constant barrage of psychological torment. The heart of the ludus was the arena, a circular pit of sand where gladiators fought for their lives. The roar of the crowd, the stench of blood and sweat, the ever-present threat of death, these were the realities of Spartacus's new existence. Each time he stepped into the arena, he knew that it could be his last. Spartacus, with his strength, skill, and unwavering determination, quickly rose through the ranks. He mastered the use of a variety of weapons and fighting styles, becoming a formidable opponent in the arena. His victories brought prestige and wealth to his lanista, but for Spartacus, they were hollow triumphs. Each victory was a reminder of his enslavement, a testament to his own survival in a world that sought to crush him. Despite the brutality of his existence, Spartacus never surrendered his hope for freedom. He saw the same longing in the eyes of his fellow gladiators, the same burning desire to break free from their chains. In hushed whispers, in stolen glances, the seeds of rebellion began to take root. The gladiators came from diverse backgrounds, a tapestry of cultures and languages woven together by the shared thread of slavery. Spartacus, with his charisma and strength of will, emerged as a natural leader. He understood that their only hope for freedom lay in unity, in harnessing their collective strength against their Roman oppressors. His words ignited a spark of hope in the hearts of his fellow gladiators, a spark that would soon erupt into the flames of rebellion. The bonds forged between Spartacus and his fellow gladiators ran deeper than mere camaraderie. They were bonds tempered in the fires of shared suffering, in the crucible of the arena where life and death hung in the balance. Among Spartacus's closest confidants were Crassus, a skilled Gaulish warrior, and an Ammaeus, a cunning and resourceful gladiator. Together, they formed a triumvirate of leadership, their diverse skills and experiences complementing Spartacus's own strategic brilliance. They communicated in whispers, using coded language and hand signals to evade detection. Trust was paramount, and Spartacus chose his allies carefully, knowing that their lives depended on it. The spark that ignited the rebellion was a seemingly insignificant event, a minor act of defiance that would have profound consequences. A group of gladiators, led by Crassus, refused to participate in a particularly brutal training exercise. The lanista, enraged by this act of insubordination, ordered the rebellious gladiators flogged. But before the guards could carry out their punishment, Spartacus intervened. With a roar of defiance, he disarmed one of the guards and used his own weapon to strike down the lanista. The other gladiators, inspired by Spartacus's daring act, joined the fray. By the time the dust settled, the lanista and his guards lay dead, their blood mingling with the sweat and tears of the gladiators they had so long oppressed. The air crackled with a newfound energy, a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Spartacus, his face still splattered with the blood of his oppressors, raised his hands, silencing the clamor of the victorious gladiators. Around him, the ludus, so long a symbol of their captivity, now bore witness to their defiance. But Spartacus knew this was only the beginning. Their escape from the ludus was just the first step on a long and perilous journey. To survive, they needed weapons, supplies, and a strategy to outwit the inevitable Roman retribution. Soon, a steady stream of escaped slaves, shepherds, and farmers, all eager to cast off the yoke of Roman oppression, began to swell their ranks. Seeking refuge and a strategic advantage, Spartacus led his burgeoning army towards Mount Vesuvius. The volcano's rugged slopes offered natural defenses, while its fertile foothills provided much-needed sustenance. Their numbers swelled daily, a motley but determined force united by their shared hatred of Rome. Spartacus, ever the strategist, recognized the need for discipline and organization if their rebellion was to have any hope of success. He began to mold his followers into a cohesive fighting force, instilling in them a sense of order and purpose. Under his guidance, former gladiators taught their comrades the art of war. They drilled with whatever weapons they could scavenge, transforming farm implements into makeshift swords and spears. News of the slave army camped on Vesuvius reached the ears of Gaius Claudius Glaber, a Roman praetor tasked with quelling the uprising. Confident in the superiority of his legions, Glaber marched on Vesuvius, intending to swiftly crush the rebellious slaves. But Glaber underestimated the cunning and resolve of his adversary. Spartacus, anticipating the Roman strategy, devised a daring plan. Under the cover of darkness, his forces, utilizing ropes woven from vines, descended the treacherous, unguarded slopes of Vesuvius. The following morning, Glaber awoke to find his army surrounded, trapped between the unforgiving slopes of Vesuvius and the fury of Spartacus's forces. The ensuing battle was a chaotic clash of desperation and rage. The victory at Vesuvius sent shockwaves through Roman society. What began as a minor uprising had transformed into a full-blown rebellion that threatened the very stability of the Republic. Panic gripped the Roman Senate. They dispatched a second, larger force under the command of Publius Varinius, another praetor eager to restore Roman honor. But Spartacus, emboldened by their initial victory, was no longer content with simply surviving. Spartacus's army, swelled by a constant influx of escaped slaves and disillusioned peasants, marched north, leaving a trail of liberated towns and vanquished Roman patrols in their wake. Each Roman defeat further fueled the flames of rebellion, inspiring hope in the hearts of the oppressed throughout the Republic. The news of Spartacus's victories spread like wildfire, reaching the farthest corners of the Roman Republic. From the bustling cities to the rural countryside, whispers of the slave revolt echoed in the streets and taverns. In Rome itself, the once unthinkable had become a terrifying reality. The Senate, gripped by fear and indecision, struggled to formulate a response to this unprecedented crisis. The legions, the vaunted protectors of the Republic, seemed powerless to stop Spartacus's advance. Spartacus, the escaped gladiator, had become a force of nature, a torrent of freedom surging across the Italian peninsula. His ragtag army, once dismissed as a nuisance, had shattered the myth of Roman invincibility. The Italian countryside, accustomed to the iron grip of Roman authority, now echoed with the clamor of rebellion. As Spartacus's forces marched north, they became a magnet for the discontented, the downtrodden, and the desperate. Spartacus, ever mindful of the precariousness of their situation, knew that maintaining discipline and unity within his rapidly growing army was paramount. He understood that their strength lay not just in their numbers, but in their shared purpose, their unwavering belief in the justice of their cause. The Roman Senate, stung by the repeated failures of its legions, turned to Marcus Licinius Crassus, a wealthy and ambitious politician, to crush the rebellion. Crassus, recognizing the seriousness of the threat posed by Spartacus, assembled a new army, larger and better equipped than any that had been sent against the slave army before. Crassus, unlike his predecessors, understood that defeating Spartacus required more than brute force. He needed to outmaneuver his opponent, to anticipate his moves, and to exploit any weaknesses in his ranks. He implemented a harsh new disciplinary code within his legions, designed to instill fear and obedience in his soldiers. The ensuing campaign was a brutal game of cat and mouse, fought across the rugged terrain of southern Italy. Spartacus, a master of guerrilla warfare, utilized his knowledge of the local terrain to his advantage, ambushing Roman patrols, raiding supply lines, and always staying one step ahead of his pursuers. As winter descended upon the Italian peninsula, bringing with it biting winds and heavy snows, both armies sought respite from the relentless campaigning. Spartacus, recognizing the need to rest and regroup, led his forces south, towards the relative warmth of Thurii, a Greek city in southern Italy. Within the city walls, Spartacus sought to impose a semblance of order upon his diverse and often unruly followers. He established workshops to repair weapons and forge new ones, implemented training regimes to maintain their fighting skills, and attempted, with varying degrees of success, to quell the internal divisions that threatened to undermine their unity. The winter months provided only a brief respite. Spartacus knew that Crassus would use the time to rebuild his army and plan his next move. The specter of war hung heavy over the city, a constant reminder that their struggle was far from over. With the arrival of spring, the two armies, their ranks replenished and their resolve hardened by the winter's chill, once again clashed on the battlefields of southern Italy. The decisive confrontation took place on the wide open plains of Lucania, a landscape that offered no shelter, no room for retreat, only the stark reality of open combat. Crassus, seeking to demoralize the slave army, had ordered his soldiers to construct a massive trench and rampart across the width of the peninsula, effectively trapping Spartacus and his followers. This act of psychological warfare, a testament to Roman engineering prowess, served as a constant reminder of the might of the forces arrayed against them. Despite the seemingly insurmountable odds, Spartacus rallied his troops, his voice booming across the battlefield, igniting a spark of defiance in their hearts. He knew that this was their last stand, their final chance to break free from the chains of Roman tyranny. The Battle of Lucania raged for days, a maelstrom of steel, blood, and desperate cries. Spartacus, his courage undimmed, fought with the ferocity of a man possessed, his every blow a testament to his unwavering belief in the righteousness of their cause. However, cracks began to appear within the ranks of the once united slave army. Internal divisions, long simmering beneath the surface, erupted into open conflict. Some, their spirits broken by the relentless Roman assault, sought to flee only to be cut down by Crassus's legions or their former comrades. Spartacus, sensing the tide turning against them, fought desperately to rally his remaining forces, to salvage some semblance of victory from the jaws of defeat. But the tide of battle had turned. The Roman legions, their discipline and training superior to the raw courage of the slave army, slowly gained the upper hand. The Lucanian plains, once a symbol of hope, transformed into a scene of carnage and despair. The air, heavy with the stench of blood, echoed with the clash of steel and anguished cries. Despite the ferocity of the slave army, the disciplined Roman legions turned the tide. Spartacus, weary but unbroken, fought with the ferocity of a cornered wolf. He moved like a whirlwind, his sword a blur, cutting down Romans. Yet Spartacus could not hold back the inexorable Roman advance. The Roman eagles, symbols of Roman might and discipline, advanced relentlessly across the battlefield, each standard bearer a beacon of the Republic's determination to crush the slave rebellion once and for all. The relentless pounding of Roman drums, a heartbeat of war, hammered against the ears of the beleaguered slave army, a constant reminder of the overwhelming force arrayed against them. Crassus, observing the battle from atop a small rise, his face an impassive mask, directed the movements of his legions with cold precision. He had staked his reputation, his very future, on the crushing of this slave revolt, and he would accept nothing less than complete victory. He had studied Spartacus, learned his tactics, anticipated his moves, and now he was determined to see his enemy broken. As the day wore on, the outcome of the battle became increasingly clear. The slave army, their ranks thinned by casualties and desertions, fought with the desperation of the doomed, their initial hope of victory replaced by a grim determination to sell their lives dearly. The air, thick with the smoke of battle and the cries of the dying, bore witness to the tragic unraveling of their dream of freedom. Accounts differ on the exact circumstances of Spartacus's death. Some say he was cut down amidst a final desperate charge, surrounded by the bodies of his enemies, his sword arm weary but unbroken. Others claim he fell while attempting to reach Crassus, determined to meet his nemesis face to face, even in defeat. Whatever the truth, his death marked the tragic climax of the rebellion that had shaken the Roman Republic to its core. The surviving rebels, their spirits broken, scattered before the relentless Roman advance. Many were hunted down and slaughtered, their bodies left to rot on the sun-baked plains as a grim warning to any who dared to challenge Roman authority. Thousands more were captured, their fate a foregone conclusion. Crassus, determined to make an example of those who had dared to defy Rome, ordered the crucifixion of 6,000 captured rebels along the Appian Way, the road that stretched from Capua to Rome. The crucified bodies, their limbs contorted in agony, lined the road for miles, a gruesome spectacle that served as a stark reminder of the price of rebellion. Though Spartacus's rebellion was ultimately crushed, its impact on the Roman psyche, and indeed on the course of history, proved to be profound and enduring. The slave revolt, a mere footnote in the grand narrative of Roman history, exposed the inherent vulnerabilities of a society built upon the backs of the enslaved. Spartacus's name, once whispered in fear among the Roman elite, became a symbol of hope and resistance for the oppressed throughout the Roman world and beyond. His story, a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who dared to challenge the established order, resonated through the ages, inspiring countless others to fight for freedom and justice. Spartacus's legacy extends far beyond the battlefield. He demonstrated that even the most marginalized, the most oppressed, could rise up and challenge the seemingly invincible forces that sought to keep them in chains. His rebellion, though ultimately unsuccessful, serves as a timeless reminder that the human spirit, when fueled by a thirst for freedom and a belief in the possibility of a better world, can never be truly broken. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the plains of Lucania, a silent testament to the brutal battle that had transpired. The dream of freedom, so fiercely pursued by Spartacus and his followers, lay shattered, buried beneath the weight of Roman might. The specter of Spartacus, the escaped gladiator who dared to challenge the might of Rome, lingered in the minds of both slave and master. Though the 6,000 crucified slaves lining the Appian Way served as a grim warning to any who dared to challenge Roman authority, he stands as a timeless symbol of courage, defiance, and the unwavering belief in the possibility of a better world. The fight for freedom and justice must never cease. Spartacus lives on in the hearts of all who dare to challenge the chains of oppression. Please like the video, subscribe to Untold Past, and ring the notification bell.